You want to come and say hello to the Whiskey Rant fans?
You want a drink though? You want us to pour you something?
No, it's okay.
What do you mean? You want some Prosecco?
Hey, welcome to Super Social Club. I'm Jeremy.
This is Whiskey in the Six, I'm Rob.
Welcome to the Whisky Rant Podcast.
So I'm a little crusty,
It's frustrating.
and it's gonna be a little bit of a rant.
I don't understand it. I don't know why.
Some sort of injustice.
Anyway, end rant.
Hello and welcome back to the Whisky Rant Podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Rob.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Time of the year that everyone's putting out some lists.
Time of the year where everyone's got the big the big OC.
Right.
American. I can never pronounce that properly.
Well, to our topic tonight, we're talking about something that we talked about before, but we're going to go into a little bit more depth. And that is essentially retail market and allocated whiskeys and, people getting this like drunk on power of who decides who gets what in the whiskey world now, because it seems like we're in this spot where there's like a divide in whiskey drinkers. There's there's someone out there that's on top of everything. Every release that comes out, they gotta be first online, they gotta be first in line, you gotta be on top of it. There's like the have and the have nots in whiskey right now, it seems.
It's depressing. Like as soon as you get a little bit like busy in your life, you're missing like 6 releases.
Right.
Like, that month is gone. Like as far as like the bottles you could have acquired, if you don't realize that if you're not on top, but like literally badgering.
You have minutes.
Yeah.
To figure shit out.
You either have minutes to hit it online.
Yeah.
Or you're badgering store owners regularly for your allocation of something, because otherwise you don't get it now, right? And then I've been doing this for a while, so I've been buying for a while. I'm not gonna say where, but I've been buying for a while, and over the years, you get friendly with a store owner, and then their sales start to pick up, and we make it obvious on our channels and where we bought our stuff, because we want to help our viewers pick up bottles for a decent price.
Yeah.
That from stores that get a good allocation of stuff. And then these stores start to gain popularity, which is natural because there's an exponential component to this, right? If I recommend something to you, you're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna check it out. You buy from that store.
Sure.
It was successful. You were happy with what you received. You're gonna go tell your buddy, hey, my buddy Rob told me about this place. I tried it out. It's great. You need to try it out.
Yeah.
Exponential growth, right? We all kind of that's how a virus spreads. Same way, you know what I mean? It's
word of mouth.
Word of mouth, yeah, essentially. So what ends up happening once they get to a certain point is I no longer need this guy anymore, so I don't need to give him that allocation anymore.
Right.
I'm gonna give my multi-millionaire, billionaire buddy that's been buying out half my store this stuff that probably found out because Whiskey in the Six or Super Social Club recommended it, but it doesn't matter because this guy's buying my stuff now.
Sure. So someone who came in, like yourself, to a smaller known store and really got it going, and they rewarded you with hey, we've got some bottles coming in, you want a first crack at this, and you're like, great. And then some big shot with a huge buying power comes in, and he starts buying up, I don't know, maybe he buys a Macallan Fine and Rare from this guy.
Right.
And it's hey, I want that next Springbank release that you get, right?
When it comes, I want 2 of each,
Yeah.
And then I'll buy X amount of stuff from you as well.
Yeah, because I'm dropping serious cash.
Yeah.
And forget about this guy who was a grassroots, starter-upper, who really got you going, and you've just left him in your dust.
Yeah, so I find we live in a time, and I don't know if this was always the case. I feel like friendships were longer lasting and relationships were longer lasting in the past. And I always remember stories from my grandparents or my dad or and they would always talk and have that same group of friends from when they were young to we're talking, I met some of my grandparents childhood friends still that they were talking to at an old age, right? So I just don't feel like we live in a society that's a common practice anymore. You know what I mean? It's all about what are you doing for me lately? What did you do for me yesterday? Because I don't remember what you did for me last year. Like
Right.
I forget. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really. Not that I forget, but I don't really care. You know what I mean? So
And like whiskey has come to this point where it's like, there's so much like power, hunger, and like
Yeah.
people drunk on power about like who gets what.
yeah, Sipper Social Club posts something on Instagram. Hours later, you have the guys that are in competition with Sipper Social Club posting something similar, if not the exact same thing, on a regular basis. Like, how often do we see this happen?
Little one-uppers.
We've watched this happen. We've watched it unfold, and it's I don't know. I know you're not like that, and I don't think I'm like that either. Where I've ever been in, I know I'm not like that, but I don't think I give off the impression that I'm like that.
Yeah.
That it's about like it's a competition. Like, oh look, Sipper Social Club just posted this bottle. I need to one up him by
Right.
or I post something, and then I've never posted anything on my channel or on Instagram with the intention of outdoing anybody.
Right.
It's just like, hey guys, this is what I have. Like, this is what I just got. Like,
Right.
it's coming soon on the channel. I'm gonna be reviewing this soon. Like 99% of the time, I post a picture of a bottle that's already cracked because it's gonna be a review on the channel. It's kind of like a preview kind of thing, right? So
I mean, everyone wants the newest release, and yeah, I mean, you get forget about shop owners and like retail stores about their picking of the litter of who gets what, but think about people that clear the shelves, and then they go online and they're like, I just have I have 10
yeah,
of something, George, like a Stag Junior or something like that, something that like is super limited, comes into the LCBO. And it goes quick. And the LCBO is terrible about their one per customer policy.
It's a joke. It's an
some
absolute
stores it is, some stores it's not. It depends on the manager.
Yeah.
It depends on who read the freaking brief that day, probably.
Yeah.
Right? It's like people
to-
can go in and clear off the shelf.
Yeah.
And then they go online and they're like, all right, who wants a bottle? Right?
And the manager walks in, hey guys, did we get that Bunnahabhain? That was one per customer. What?
Someone took 10, I don't know.
Actually, like 6 guys walked in all at once and took all 6 like 5 minutes ago. Meanwhile, it was one guy taking all 6 or whatever. It's crazy because recently, that Bunnahabhain that I just brought up, I drove like an hour out of my way to go grab one bottle, brought it home. Everybody's doing one per customer. We do know of stories of people that just cleared shelves somehow at the LCBO. It's the same company.
It happens all the time.
province-wide.
All the time with like it's supposed to be one per customer,
Yeah.
and it's never like that everywhere. It seems.
And then the next day they posted on Instagram or on the internet, and it's one per customer, which they should have done to begin with.
Right.
Like, why are you gonna make people drive all over the place to get this bottle and then release a new batch the next day? Like, it was such a slap in the face.
It was, yeah. I mean, the LCBO rollout of limited edition stuff is hilarious. It's so unorganized. Sometimes they do it a day earlier than they're supposed to. They'll accidentally put inventory on their website, which everyone can see exactly where bottles are. You'll have people showing up.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Where's this release?" They're like, "We don't have it out on the floor yet." Like, it shows that you have 20 bottles here. Where are they? I want them now. And people are just like, okay, well, I guess we have to sell them to you because who cares, right? Who cares?
Yeah. Well, they don't know. Like, it's just, half the time it's seasonal employees that are just like
Sure.
there to.
They're like, oh, I think I got some in the back. Yeah, I saw that case back there. Yeah,
Oh,
you want them
yeah,
all?
I saw that,
Yeah,
yeah.
take them all, whatever.
Right? Oh, look what I did. I just sold 6 bottles.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Yeah, it's like, we weren't supposed to sell those today.
it's pretty sad what happens at the LCBO.
I mean, and then they get like 1,000 phone calls, right?
Oh,
they're like, do you have this? Do you have this? Can you put it on hold? I've talked to managers before who are just like, we're not putting anything on hold. We're not holding anything.
Yeah.
You have to come in, and it's one per.
Yeah, because then you have those guys like, can you put this on hold for me? I'm going to be there like in a half hour. Then they don't show up that whole day or whatever, right?
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
gotta be
that's the
very
thing, right?
annoying.
They just call around and put
Yeah.
a bunch on hold.
Yeah, exactly. The LCBO can be, we should start I was thinking about this. 2022, we should start a new ticker
A new ticker.
of how horrible they are.
Okay.
So, like, how does it work again? It's like a -1 every time they suck.
No, I think it's a +1.
It's a +1 every time they suck?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And
so-
then we take points away if they do something good. But I think the counter was over 1,000 last
Yeah.
until we stop doing it.
I feel like we should keep, like, solid track this year because it's only 1 year. It's good, like kind of, you know, maybe they'll improve this year, and then the ticker won't leave. But right now, I think they're starting with like at least 5 ship points.
Okay, 5 ship points for the Buna release.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
a joke.
How many ship points do you want to give them for that Cartridge release, though?
So the Cartridge release, I didn't even know it hit shelves. So that's like that's got to be like an additional 5 to 10.
Yeah. See, I was not on top of that either, and I found out towards the end of the day and gone.
Yeah.
Wiped it clean.
And
That's one of the best priced bottles that we usually get at the LCBO, right? It's like around 100, 120, something like that.
Yeah, it's
well priced.
Yeah, they're annually less than the global average for that bottle, and you know they almost deserve points like in
For
the
that
good
price,
category.
yeah.
But then they're so stupid.
Right.
They can't just put that online, 1 or 2 per customer. Like, how many did they get total?
I don't know.
300 bottles? 200 bottles? Maybe less?
Like, they just did a rare whiskey release online with Weller stuff and Blanton stuff. At least they've, like, put that stuff to allocate it online.
Yeah.
Why don't they do it with these as well? It makes more sense, I think, right? Like,
Absolutely.
a Buna special edition limited release, throw that with it. Your Cartridge, throw that with it. I don't understand why they can't do that.
Because, what that will do is it'll wean out, like, some of the people that are literally just getting stuff to flip. You know what I mean? Like, so I got the Buna and I literally opened it the day I got it. You know what I mean? The Cartridge, same thing. I have one from another province. Opened it the day I got it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, the LCBO actually did get a decent number of those Bunas. So people that bought to flip having a tough time right now on Canadian secondary.
I would imagine. But I mean, at the end of the day, those special release Bunas, all they need is a couple good reviews and they fly.
Yeah, not all of them are amazing. Some of them better than others.
Yeah, a lot of them are not great. We've gone through this, right?
Yeah.
We have.
Let's talk about the whiskey we're drinking right now.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
So, Shelter Point this year came out with their first 10-year release. So they've been around for 10 years.
10-year-old age
Just over,
statement.
almost 11. I
Is
guess.
this their first 10-year-old
Actually,
age statement release?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so the 10-year-old cask strength was their first. I was shaking a little bit because it had some barrel residue at the
Little
bottom.
settlement, love that.
Yeah, like,
Love to
and
see
it's
it.
like, and you know it's barrel because it was dark. It was like a dark brown, instead of like, you know, floaties from like colder temperatures and chill filtration and that sort of thing, right? 57.8%, 10 years old. Their traditional artisanal cask strength single malt. This was aged, it doesn't say it, but through insider information, I was told it was aged in a Jack Daniels barrel. And cask strength single malt.
Wow, that's delicious.
Yeah, so this is the cask strength one. And Jacob's reasoning for them not releasing the 46 first is because it's a bigger process. They go through more steps and they want to like vat it for a certain amount of time. And I don't know. I don't know the exact process, but he always says that like what they can turn a few barrels like that are like coming in at an 8 in, when they go through this process, they can bring it in a lot higher, like an 8 or 9, 8.5, 9, whatever, right? So this is the 46. It came out just recently, I think along the same time as the Prohibition, which is finished in an Isla cask that they don't state. Although if you've been tracking the distillery for some time, you know that they got Ardbeg casks not that long ago. They didn't want to explain which casks they were because of like agreements and stuff like that, but Ardbeg sold them a bunch of casks which they used for finishing, and they finished this 10-year-old here. So that's also cask strength. I didn't see the ABV. There you go. 56.9. So it dropped a bit, I guess, or maybe just the combination of barrels dropped a bit. What do you think of the 46 so far?
I think they're all excellent. I just went to the 2 cask strengths, and the peat influence in this 10-year-old maybe the best I've had as far as like Canadian whiskey matured in an Isla cask before.
In like a finish, like a peat finish.
Right?
Honestly, dude, like I love it, but you have to try this year's Smoke Point. Like I'm like the spokesperson for Shelter Point, and I don't mean to be self-proclaimed, But this year's Smoke Point is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. This is really good though.
These 3 have been very excellent so far, just in the
Yeah.
first couple sips. Really good. Yeah, I mean, Shelter Point, like, they're just doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And Canadian single malt, I mean, it's great to see a lot of it coming out now.
So, and it's hard not to mention in the same breath two brewers, because when I think Canadian single malt, I think Shelter Point and two brewers,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, they're both doing an incredible job.
Right.
Incredible job. Two brewers, I have a couple here that I really want to review in the near future. The release 28 and 29,
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal stuff. What these guys are doing though, it's what we've been begging for.
Yes.
That's what I feel like. It's what we've been begging for years now.
Yeah.
You know, and they're doing it. It's a shame that the same kind of Canadian whiskey is getting so much attention, and I feel like Canadian whiskey companies are just so caught up in that tradition that they don't realize what's happening right in front of them. And what's good about companies like Shelter Point, Two Brewers, and like some of these new guys that are coming up is the writing's on the wall and they see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're new and they need to figure out something different to become a little bit more popular.
Yeah.
And it's pumping through social media, it's pumping through different things instead of,
Yeah.
you know.
There's no point on like new Canadian whiskey distilleries to do stuff that Canada Whiskey has been doing forever. We don't need more rye and corn blended stuff to
Yeah.
mix with Coke.
No.
That's been done.
Yeah.
And they do it extremely well, and they've been doing it forever, and they pump
Yeah.
out so much of that stuff that
Exactly.
people love. Like they buy a crap ton of that.
Yeah.
But this is the way to move forward, because this is, whiskey that gets notoriety from enthusiasts like us.
Exactly.
Like, this is the whiskey that we want from Canada. We don't want like blended corn stuff.
Exactly. I can't wait till the day where we can start to see the expression on like guys like Mike and Narvi's face and like Roy's face when they try a Two Brewers at Shelter Point, and like they're just
Yeah, when this stuff can finally get out of Canada and,
Yeah.
and reach in new markets.
Yeah, so these guys just started. They got the 46% artisanal cask strength, 46% artisanal single malt out now in, I think, California and a few places in Europe, which is great. But, I mean, they are limited too because they're relatively new. So we'll see. Hopefully in the near future they can start really pumping it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, because people need to try this and, give them a new appreciation for Canadian whiskey, because obviously the way that people view Canadian whiskey is, for a long period of time anyway, something that was just a nice mixer.
Yeah. I mean, we do have
And
some
rye, like a rye forward mixer.
rye forward, yeah.
Yeah.
We do have a couple really great distilleries doing really great ryes, and that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like Alberta Distillers, their rye is incredible. I hope they come out with their next cask strength with an age statement on it. Like
Yeah.
people don't care if it says 7 years old on it; they're gonna love it anyway. You know what I mean? Just say it. Just say it's 7 years old. Say it's 10 years old. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Lot 40 just released an 18-year-old
Yes.
single malt that nobody will ever see, but.
I hope people open that bottle up.
Yeah, I have a bad feeling, man. I have a bad feeling, and they didn't help themselves, in my opinion, and just my personal opinion. And I love Lot 40, and I really wanted to try that one, to be honest with you. But they didn't help themselves doing like a really small release
Yeah.
and saying that emails were gonna go out. It's gonna be first come first serve, and then nobody got the email until it was already sold out.
Right.
So how that it was a little fishy.
They're like,
You know?
here, you have one, you have one, you have one,
Yeah.
and there's 3 left for people.
Yeah, I think that's
Right?
exactly what happened. To be honest with you, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that they put out a single cask 18-year-old. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of fueling the tater market. I think like not too many people are going to open that because the secondary will be so much for it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
are you going to open it or are you going to sell it for $2,000? We'll see. I haven't seen one sell yet. I haven't seen the price the market price set on that yet. But
wouldn't
I
be
would say
surprised.
it's 1,500 probably. I think whereas that's gonna probably go for.
Yeah, I mean it's so limited that even if it sells for like 15 to $2,000 now, what's that going to be worth in 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, sure. Look at just even the 12-year-old, the first release of Lot 40 Cask Strength.
Yeah.
I mean that's going for a pretty penny right now for sure.
Yeah, I would assume that the 18-year-old sales has helped that 12-year-old,
Sure.
right? Because like nobody can get that 12-year-old anymore.
I mean, even look at the Canadian Club 40, right? Look at the prices of that's commanding right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And we could have had as much of that as we wanted,
Pretty much, yeah.
but it wasn't that good.
No, it was the.
I mean, it was
the
good,
barrel-
but like it
yeah.
wasn't. It's like it's not a 40-year-old
No.
whiskey good.
No, the barrel pull of that was fantastic though. Which hopefully one day they'll commit to what they said and do a cask strength. But I do think of the three, I am enjoying the 46 the most. And I know it's probably just like, brought down obviously, but like it's super well rounded in my opinion. Whichever barrels they selected to go into the vatting for the 46,
Yeah.
really, really well rounded.
Yeah, like these ex Jack Daniel barrels are giving it a lot of sweetness, a lot of like caramel, and I got like chocolate sauce on this 46
Yeah,
that I thought was delicious. But yeah, you're right. Nice rounded flavors.
yeah. Yeah, I wonder, like I really do wonder if you pour this next to, the Aaron 10 and the Glenallachie 12. And okay, maybe not the Glenallachie 12 because it's so like sherry forward, but like stuff that's like, more bourbon cask-esque, whatever, right? I wonder how this would perform in a blind tasting.
I think what I really like about these is that they have a great malt characteristic
Yes.
to them as well. Like
Absolutely.
the malt quality, you can tell, is up there. It's very good, and it definitely shines, I think, in these for sure.
I wonder how long they malt for, because I know that matters. Like I think he was saying that there's like they do a certain amount for some types of whiskey that they want to make, and a certain amount for other types. But actually, that last sip of the cask strength was beautiful.
Yeah, very impressed with all of these, and like I said, like even the Isla Cask finish.
So I guess to wrap up the ranting part of things, that I've heard store owners tell me that there are people in the industry that go out of their way to say, hey, don't sell to that guy. You should be selling to us. We're gonna whatever, So like essentially, they go out of their way to cock block us from getting whiskey, and then I guess it's being listened to because there are stores that I see the effects of it. So
Right.
I wonder how many people are like, yeah, sure, I won't. But then it's funny because these are allocated. Like for example, there's a whole bunch of Springbank releases recently, and a whole bunch of different releases that were completely allocated. Just went to like guys, I guess the store owner knew, which is fine. But immediately, where are you seeing these bottles? Like, where did you immediately see these bottles?
Secondary,
Right.
Because
On
that's
Facebook.
where I bought them from.
That's where you buy them,
right?
exactly.
So I was like,
So-
I'm like, oh, I missed the new Springbank 12, the 100% bourbon cask. So what do?
I guess you buy
buy on
that.
the secondary
Right,
because
what are you
like
gonna
I
do?
want that bottle,
That's right.
and so I'll pay a premium.
That's right.
Now I didn't get taken to the cleaners on it. It was a decent
It's a
secondary
fair
market.
deal,
It was
yeah.
I mean, I paid $100 over retail.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, like it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to miss a phone call by like 30 minutes.
Right?
And then,
It's a lot.
Yeah, it sucks.
I mean, I want it, so I
Yeah.
got it, and I mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get good deals and I can buy it retail. Sometimes I miss it, and the only other way of getting it is the secondary
It's
market.
on secondary. And at the end of the day, I don't hate the player. I hate the idea of like, you're gonna take someone else's word for it that we're flipping. Like, I have Springbank 12. I don't know if the camera picks it up, but I have a Springbank 12 open on my bar. I have a Springbank 10 local barley open on my bar, which I would guarantee 80% of people that bought that bottle didn't open.
We don't buy to flip.
Well, like
we might flip a couple bottles here and there.
Yeah, here and there to like.
But we're not
sustain
buying.
Our channel.
We're not buying whiskey with like. I'm just gonna flip this to make a couple $100.
Exactly. That's what bothers me. Is that's the impression that I think some store owners are getting when they sell me something and they don't see it on the channel for like a year. It's like, yeah, no kidding. I didn't open that Springbank 12. I have one open right there. Yeah. I'm gonna wait to finish this one and then open another one because guess what? The viewers don't want to like. It's like ECBP barrel. Like how many times are we gonna see another ECBP barrel proof?
I hate ECBP barrel proof
reviews. No, like honestly, type in if you want to laugh. Type in Elijah Craig barrel proof review on YouTube. 1,000 videos will pop up, if not more. If not more.
Yeah.
And it's like what do you want us to do?
And it's the same review. Yeah. This is the best buy in bourbon.
Yeah. Like,
which
no shit.
Maybe it is.
That's why every single person has reviewed it in WhiskyTube. Obviously, it's good. Yeah, we get it. Like, okay, I understand. I got an allocated whiskey from you, and you want to see a review and you want your shout out. Fine, but I can't just pop that and review it tomorrow. There's a whole shelf here of stuff that I still have to review. That means I have like to make time to do those things. Like I understand. Like I purchased your product. You were nice enough to offer it to me first. I get it. Like I understand the way it works, but like there's only so much we can do.
Do you remember old school Whiskey in the 6 Days? Back in the old set where you would always end a video by saying, and coming up next I'm gonna review this one, and then you never touched it again.
And then I never
and then something came out with like be better, and then you reviewed that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, I gotta get to these, and they just like kept moving back and back and back, and then just off the shelf altogether.
Those would always end up at my father-in-law's house. But I think that's kind of like, if you're paying attention to the channel, that's kind of like an indication as to how I feel about that bottle in and of itself, right? Like, if I haven't reviewed it within a year, there's a good chance it's because I didn't really like it as much as I thought I was going to. Right? So, I mean, I get it. You want me to review your Springbank 12 or whatever else that you sell to me, and I want to. Trust me.
So you think that that's part of it? Like someone's like, hey, I told you about this whatever bottle and I sold you one, and like I'm expecting to see a review, and then it doesn't come out, so they're just like, all right, well I'm not selling to you anymore.
I think it might, man. I honestly do think it has something to do with that. You know, and I know that there are guys that are not singing our praises because they're upset that we get stuff that they can't, which is ridiculous because I can honestly say I've never ever said don't sell to anybody in my life.
That's a weird thing to even say anyway.
Right? And I've never ever interfered with anybody's whiskey purchase in my life intentionally. Like if I bought something and it ended up being the last one, I apologize, but that was never my intention to interfere with that person drinking that bottle. It was just me wanting that bottle.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna cut off I'm not gonna cut throat to get it, you know what I mean? I'm not killing people's grandmothers.
No, and it's not like we go in and we clear off shelves with intention of flipping the whiskey.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you know, this store has a couple, like, you call up your buddies real quick, like,
Exactly.
would you like one, would you like one, would you like one?
Right.
Okay, I'll go buy 4, but they're not just for flipping, they're for my close friends who I'm buying for.
Yeah.
These are all going to be opened and enjoyed and drank.
Exactly.
They're not going to show up on a Facebook secondary group for 5 times retail.
Well, that's...
Unless it's from the LCBO and it's a Weller 12, and then of course we're flipping it.
Yeah, exactly. And they forgot to put it on Lotto instead of on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-tiered whiskey system these days, right? There's people that go out and hunt and stay on top, and there's everyone else that misses out. And people are just like, you know, looking for whiskey, and it's hilarious that people they're like, oh, go to the LCBO and get that, and they're like, oh wait, there's nothing at the LCBO worth buying ever, unless you're on top of it, right? Unless you're on top of that Boon Habit, unless you're on top of that cartridge, you have a day, and you have to be in Toronto or the GTA. You're not getting it in other places in the province. Good luck.
It bothers me when I get and I feel so bad. It bothers me when I get the guys that how come I never see you review anything from the LCBO? And it's like, dude, because they never have anything good.
Yeah.
They don't. It's 1 out of every 30 bottles I buy is purchased, and that's being generous.
Yeah.
is purchased from the LCBO.
Yeah.
And for good reason. It's because they don't get anything.
And if they do have something good, it's way overpriced.
Yeah.
It's like, 40 to 150% more than you can buy it somewhere else.
Yeah. I think the ultimate like biggest takeaway I want, like, because I know, like, once in a while store owners will watch this and we'll chat about it and whatever else. I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just trying to say, like, listen, we understand our role in your growth. We get it. Like, we've seen it happen before. We know the impact we have. We're not trying to be pompous about it or anything like that. But it's very easy to forget the little guy when we've helped you up to here, and then all of a sudden exponentially you've grown a little bit more, right? So try not to forget the little guy.
Right.
So that's takeaway A. Takeaway B is we're not flipping this shit. We drink, like, I don't know what. When I get comments like, whose bar are you filming at? Is that like a store? Is that like a they're not, people are not saying that because they're just trying to like blow smoke up my ass. They're shocked that I own this much whiskey open. You know what I mean? And you have just as much, if not more, because you have a ton.
Yeah.
So we open our stuff. We're not flipping it. And if we do ever flip a bottle, it's because we have 4 other bottles lined up that we need to pay for.
Right.
And we don't want to take food off our
Yeah, sure.
table.
Our Macallan Edition 1 is appreciated in so much value that there's no way we're opening it. So why don't we just sell that and buy some whiskey that we actually will open and enjoy?
Exactly.
Right?
And in all fairness, I think I went through like 4 Macallan Edition 2s. So
yeah, and
there's
think how
also
much
that.
you could have made if you kept those sealed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but that's not really what we were thinking about when we do it, right?
No. It's an afterthought. It's an afterthought to help pay for the whiskey we plan to review on our channels.
Sure. Well, it's the new year, and everyone is releasing their Whiskey of the Year videos. Let's comment real quick on just a couple big ones. Let's start with Ralphie, the biggest of the biggest. So he always talks about his Whiskey of the Year going forward. So this is the whiskey that's going to be the one to look for in this year, not what he's drank in the past year, but the one to buy going forward.
Yeah, his approach is very interesting, I think, because it gets people like ready to buy, because it wasn't reviewed and given like this astonishing mark earlier on in the year. It's that whiskey that, he's getting people ready to buy now. So if you watch that video, you ran out, you bought that bottle, now we're all gonna have a lot more trouble getting that that 10-year-old that Ralphie mentioned.
I mean, it's a Lecheg 10, which is a great bottle, an underrated peated expression. It's the peated version of Tobamori. They do an amazing job with it. We've mentioned it many times as a good value purchase. Did we do it on the rant before?
I thought we did.
I think we did too, or at least we discussed doing it, because I remember the discussion we had about talking about that. Because it's a great value buy.
It's a great value buy.
Under the radar.
At the LCBO.
Yeah, even at the LCBO.
$67.
It goes under the radar because it's not an Isla, big name.
Yeah.
And it's a great bottle, and I think it's a great selection that Ralphie made because people can find that bottle.
Yeah.
Which is always great.
Yeah.
And it's, if you haven't tried Lecheg 10. I pronounce it Lecheg. I don't know how other people pronounce it. I've heard Ledeg.
I say Lecheg.
Lecheg.
And I don't know if that's right. I just say
it's a weird pronunciation on how it's spelled.
It's not Ledeg. It's like the D is
Ledeg. Yeah.
The D kind of comes off like a J or something.
Someone will correct us if we're pronouncing it wrong.
Watch Roy's pronunciation video. There you go. Aquavite.
Yeah.
That was a great whiskey. What I was surprised at is, and excuse my reach here, but two guys I highly respect in the whiskey industry picked this bottle, which for once we actually get in Canada.
Here we go.
It's the Barrel Seagrass.
So Barrel, always interesting what they come out with, and this one I've never tried before.
Yeah, it's got some cool finishing to it. So it's rye whiskey finished in some type of rum cask. Then there's Madeira casks, apricot brandy barrels.
Oh, wow.
There's 8,041 bottles, which you already know is what's going to happen.
So Liquor Hound and Mash and Drum both had this on their list, yeah?
Yes. So Liquor Hound, Mash and Drum, and this I didn't know. I'm just reading this for the first time. Distilled in Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, and Canada, aka Alberta. Right?
So it's Alberta rye, finish, and other stuff. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I guess so Barrel's doing a cool thing because they're buying barrels. I believe they're not making their own stuff. They're just buying barrels from other companies.
They're blending.
They're blending it. They're re-aging it, recasking it.
Right.
And I have the Dovetail as well, which is finished in rum, port, Dun Vineyard, Cabernet barrels.
So I have had a version of the Dovetail because there's different versions, right?
Right. The
So
Dovetail is
the
multiple.
one that I've tried before, I thought was excellent, really good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we can try that at some point after we review these, but good stuff. I found that maybe it's because of all the finishing, the nose is a little weaker. Mm-hmm. But it could also be because it needed to open up a little bit, so maybe it'll get better as time goes. But really respect those two reviewers, so for them to give this their Rye of the Year, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a great time. I love watching everyone's year-end videos and what they liked the most from the year and their top picks. It's always interesting. Yeah. It's a great conversation. I think just take it as subjective. I know a lot of people put too much weight on people's selections.
A lot of people get so angry that I pick like stuff that I really loved as opposed to just picking readily available stuff.
Sure. And everyone does their approach differently, right? Yeah. It's like, these are the best whiskeys I tried. These are the ones that I think are good purchases. Mm-hmm. It just depends, right? Mm-hmm. Like Malt Reviews, who only really, for 90% of their stuff, they're reviewing insane auction purchases from, yesteryear of insane whiskey. But when they do their Whiskey of the Year, they're like, these are the ones that we think are the best value. So that's what we'll tell you. These aren't the best we've tried. These are the best value. So I think you got to kind of take everyone's year-end differently.
Yeah. I agree with their approach. I wonder how much money they're still spending on everyday value whiskeys though. That's my only thing. Like, do you really want to know what I have to say about the everyday whiskey when that's not what I'm buying? Don't you want to know what I have to say about the stuff that I review on a regular basis? Like stuff that I've reviewed this year, like stuff that I've actually taken the time to sit multiple drinks with, come up with a mark. Don't you want to know how I feel about like how I rank that with what I had this year, as opposed to us sitting down and like looking at a list of stuff that we've tried maybe once or twice in the past, or got to try this year, but like just in fleeting interest, you know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden we're ranking these things. It's like, how fair is that mark? Like, I love what Malt Reviews does, and I commend them for doing it. I just don't think that's what I'm capable of doing, and I get a lot of heat for it, and it's fine. Yeah. But that's just the way I'm gonna do it, man. Like I can't change that. Like I don't want to change that because. And one of the reasons is, and somebody actually tripped me this morning about it, but it's because I buy that whiskey, it's got to sit on my shelf for the next year, 2 years, maybe more, unless I give it away because I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. So how many value whiskeys do I have to dislike before I get to one that I really like? Yeah. I'm going to wait for other people's recommendation on that value whiskey because that's more maybe in their price range, and I'll buy that, Yeah.
I think like my approach is I'll do, my like Canadian Whiskey of the Year, American Whiskey of the Year, and those are kind of more just like the best that I've tried, not necessarily that were released in that calendar year.
I think that's a fair way to do it.
It's kind of tough for us with American whiskey to do that. Especially now, without being across the border and like having access to a lot of American whiskey, we're not going to see a lot of stuff that was bottled in 2021.
No.
So it's more kind of like, what did I try? So I kind of like vary my categories. I have categories for everything, and sometimes I just make up a category because I want to talk about a whiskey. Yeah. So I'll be like, this is my most like pleasantly surprised whiskey of the year. Yeah. This is like my favorite annual release of the year because they've come out with so many that have been so good every single time. Yeah. So it kind of just depends, and I kind of just make up something just because I want to talk about it. And then I'll have the best whiskey I tried of the year, and then my whiskey of the year, which is something that is somewhat available and good value and good quality.
Right. I mean, so not to give anything away, but what our buddies we've already mentioned picked this bad boy right here, which I'm looking forward to reviewing as well because I think it's incredible. But we don't get these until near the end of 2021 to early 2022. Like, it still hasn't arrived at the LCBO. This is the Lagavulin 12-year-old from this year, which, you know, rocks the $75 to $90 Lion that you're paying for as opposed to, like, 12-year-olds from years past.
Sure.
But it honestly drinks better than any Lagavulin 12-year-old I've ever had.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and I totally agree with Mike and Narby's pick. If you haven't watched their video, check it out because they mention a bunch of things that I'm very curious myself to go check out and buy because, you know, it's stuff that I haven't had a chance to try. But
like, good value doesn't mean cheap, right?
That's true too.
It's like
that's a $200 bottle. Like,
sure.
That's a $220 bottle Canadian, right?
Yeah, there's good value in expensive whiskeys because, you know, something that's comparable is way more money than that, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
You want to mark these whiskeys?
Yeah. Okay. So I think, honestly, like, I'm marking this based on a couple things. So I know I like to play with my whiskey and add water if I want to, that kind of thing. But when I'm looking for something in the 10-year-old category that's a pour and play that I just want to really enjoy, I'm really, really, really enjoying this 46. So I'm going to give this one as my highest mark. So I'll mark this one last. I'm going to go 87, 86, 85, 86 for the regular 10-year-old cask strength, and then 88 for the 46%.
Yeah, that's interesting that you would pick the 46 as...
I know, I never do that. That's like Mike's probably, or Narby's probably like, what the hell just happened?
This guy has a freaking leather tongue and he's picking 46 as his favorite. Yeah, I think I'm pretty close to what you kind of said. I think that I'm giving this Isla finish a couple more marks. You said, what, 87?
I said 87.
I'm going to be 88 on this. I think it's like one of my favorite Canadian finished Isla casks.
Yeah, it's really
Sometimes
good.
they don't
really
turn
like
out
it.
great.
Yeah.
This one, I really like it. Maybe because it's presumably Ardbeg and not a Lafroig, but...
Yeah, and this is where marking... Sorry, not to cut you off, but this is where marking comes into, like, the not so fair... Like, because I've tried this next to the Smoke Point from this year... That Smoke Point, like, it blows my mind. So I'm automatically, like, dropping the score a little bit on this one without maybe even, like, fair reason to do that. You know what I mean? Not that those are all great scores in my opinion. I buy these any day. Like, they're all well priced 10-year-old single malt Canadian whiskeys. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I think on the 10 cask strength, I think I'm a mark less at 87, and I would pick this one just as equally. I think I've been 87 on this as well.
Okay. Really
Really impressed. Very, very good. I was very, very impressed with all three of these. Definitely worthwhile picking up, for sure.
Yeah. So you went 87 right across the board?
88, 87, 87.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
So,
the peated one the best.
Nice. And that was 88, 86, 87.
Right.
That's pretty
So
good.
pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, great scores. I think that tells people they're worth buying. This, I think, all three of these have the potential to get better. You saw that, like the viewers, if they were watching what I was doing, they saw me kind of shaking this, and it's because there's barrel residue, which just tells me that this is going to get better and better as time goes on, and so is the one finished in a Ardbeg cask. You know, because. I don't know how long they're vatting their whiskeys, but for oxygen to, like, really do its work, it's got to be a long vatting process, right? So that could play a part. This, I could pour that all day.
Yep, that's a great, easy, nice plain pour.
Yeah.
For someone who maybe just like drinks a lot of Canadian whiskey, buy that for them.
That's
be like,
the right
try
one.
this out.
Yeah. That's the right one to start with.
Yeah.
This is a cool one to bring to like any party.
Yeah.
For me, because if you're going with all Scotch drinkers, don't show them the bottle, pour it for them. Don't tell them they're not drinking a Scotch and see what they say.
Yeah.
I would be very curious.
Yeah, Canadian whiskey might be a long guess, like on the line of what you would think it is.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe they would think Irish,
Yeah.
right? But
It's weird, right? It's like it
different.
would throw you for a loop, for sure.
Yeah, really good.
I like these Final Touch glasses. Final
Those are
Touch
cool.
makes really cool stuff.
This is the first time I'm hearing of them, so unless that's where you get your stuff.
So, not my branded stuff, but I've had Final Touch glasses similar to this design, but maybe a little different base before, which I really liked. Yeah. Really good.
Cool.
Well, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to catch this podcast earlier than anyone else, check out our Patreons. You can join for $1 and get the Whisky Rant sooner than we post it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And well, thanks for watching, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hope for everyone's holiday was great.
2022, man. I feel like COVID's over.
Yeah, how many people said that a year ago today, right?
Yeah. No, we had higher cases than ever before in Ontario, but I feel like it's just like, cold now.
Here's hoping that the severity of the virus is lower now and less people are being severely affected.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a light at the end of the tunnel.
Let's hope.
Hopefully we can get past it and we can have whiskey events again.
Yeah.
Like that's really what we miss the most
Right?
is sharing whiskey with people.
We miss the people.
Face to face.
We do.
Zoom does it okay, but it's just not the same
Not
at
the same.
all. Yeah.
Craziest thing about 2021 is that the only whiskey event we attended was in another province.
And it was the greatest experience ever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just
Yeah, we lucked out, man. That was
Very
that was a
lucky.
good time with
Good
COVID. It
timing.
wasn't like super crazy that we couldn't do that.
skin of our teeth right
Right?
there.
Yeah. Yeah. It worked out perfect.
Cheers,
All right.
guys.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.